Hey guys, this is Ron here. Thank you again for coming to my blog once more. Today we're talking about plot. And what I mean by plot is, let's say for example, I gave you this example of this character called George goes to Washington, shakes hands with the president, buys flowers for his wife, who we never really see, we only just hear about. And then he gets back on the train, listens to music through some earphones he bought while he was in Washington. But as you know from that story, you don't really have a plot from it though. And what I mean by plot is, in other words, like what's driving the character to do what he's doing. Like, what do we know about him? What are his motives? One of the things that put a plot into motion is a character's motives, for one thing. They are definitely doing something for some reason. I mean, if we're talking about real life, in real life, a lot of us just like have a lot of instances where we goof around, where we don't really do anything except we just like go day about day, just doing typical things. But at the same time, even in real life, there is also that aspect outside of our goofing around and just having fun. We ultimately are trying to accomplish something. For example, college students go to college because, they want to get a degree. Musicians play professionally. They write songs because they want to get noticed by someone out there. The president tries to he doesn't just make laws just to make laws. He tries to advance the country constantly and to make lifestyle better for us. The point is that um, basically everything we do in real life is for a reason, and the reason why I bring that up is because it goes back to like the plot for your story. Your character is also doing something for a reason. They're not just doing things just to just do things. They have a reason for what they do. What could have made the George story better, for example, is, for example, we didn't need like all these random scenes of, like, for example, like him buying flowers. That in itself is like something that you can make a plot off of. Him shaking hands with the president. That's something that you can make a plot off of. Basically, you will know that your story doesn't know where to go if you find your character doing all these random things, engaging in all these random events that serve no purpose. That's when you know that your story doesn't really have a working plot. Um, a better way to improve the George story would be, for example, he's going to Washington, he shakes hands with the president, then the president assigns him some sort of mission. And the reason why he went to Washington in the first place was because he was on some sort of top secret mission. And of course, we've seen that kind of story millions of times in like spy movies and government movies, action movies. If you any kind of movie or any kind of genre you can think of, whether it's a story or a movie or any sort of fiction, we've definitely seen that kind of plot structure before. Someone hired by someone else to do something, top secret mission, that kind of thing. But the basic thing is that one event, when you have a plot for your story, leads to another, and so on and so on. You don't have, at least you should try not to have all these filler scenes. It's okay to have like a filler scene here and there, maybe like what does a character do outside of his job that's like moving the plot along, like what's his family like, what's the life like with his friends, what sort of hobbies does he engage in. But you just can't make them outweigh the basic plot of your story. You can't make your story consist mostly of just like this character's hobbies, but you never get to like what the character is actually trying to go for. That's the main thing that you want to discuss in your story. That's the main that you want to show us, because without that, again, your story doesn't have a working plot. So how do you decide plot in the first place? Well, first off, before you even start writing, you need to know where you want to go with your story. If you just start writing out of the blue, not even thinking about like what your characters are going to do, you're going to find yourself in the George situation. They're going to be doing all these random events. They're going to be doing all these random things, and eventually, the only reason why you're going to want to end the story is because you're going to say, "Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Just find some way to kill it." But you definitely want to at least outline, or even if you don't outline it, at least just write down maybe like a few sentences or so about like where like what's the basic plot, what is your story, what do your characters, or what does your one character want to accomplish, and how is your character going to get there. Like What do you know about your character that they do in certain situations? Um, are they rather reserved or don't like to take chances, but are somehow pushed into it and then find themselves in a situation where they have no choice but to take chances? Or are they someone who doesn't have to take chances but finds himself in a situation where something is beyond the capabilities? And if you notice in both of those examples that I've just mentioned, the character has some sort of vulnerability as well. That's also what moves your plot forward. If your character is invincible to everything that comes at them, then that ruins the plot because like there is no point where the character is being challenged by anything. Challenge, challenge, challenge. That's definitely one thing that you want to make sure your plot has for the character or characters, but especially the main character. The main character is definitely the person that you need to have who has the most at stake. They have to be the character who can lose the most. For example, if you write a story about like say like a rich king who was like looking all over his people like what's at stake for him, just like losing his followers and then him boo-hooing in his kingly hat. No, that's not gonna work. But if you make a story about like a peasant who's trying to take over the kingdom somehow, I mean, when you talk about something like that on the surface, it sounds like, well, okay, he's a peasant. What could he possibly do to take over a whole kingdom? That's when you got a plot, because because what'll be interesting is finding out how the heck this one guy, basically has no friends, probably just like a few companions at best. Is a very poor dude, but yet he wants to take over the kingdom and make the place better for the poor people instead of the rich. That is a plot because we're going to see how he goes from the bottom to the top with his limited resources. We're not going to have an interesting story though if he has the power to just snap his fingers and make himself king. Like what the heck? For one thing, we don't even have superpowers. We like characters that we can relate to and weakness because we have weaknesses. We as humans aren't heroes, or we can't shoot lasers out of our eyes. We can't read minds. We can't just snap our fingers and make something change. We actually have to go through challenges and everything, even protest, and still find ourselves not having a win. So that's the kind of thing that you got to keep in mind with the plot. But basically, just to summarize, plot basically you're challenging your character. Your character wants something that they can't easily get, and how your character gets it. That's the plot. That's the challenge.